Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Footy Tackle podcast. It's been a while. I'm your host, as always, Ari Stamatakos, and it's been a while, hasn't it? I think it's been 2 weeks. I'm recording this on Friday, the 22nd of July. I think it has been quite a while, but we're back. Another episode, and it's going to be just another quick transfer update episode. You could probably tell by the title, thumbnail, nothing major. What's been happening on my end, not a whole bunch, so I guess I've got no real news to update you, although I have started doing some videos for the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. So if you want to hear me talk about some Australian football, some player spotlights have already gone up on the channel. Go on over to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel, give it a subscribe, and go on the website as well. There's some very talented writers for that website, for the publication. Some really talented people, some really good people who are going to go far in the industry. So yes, that's been happening on my end. Nothing else though, I don't think. So let's just crack into it. And as you can tell by the title, nothing real special. We're just going to be going over some recent transfer news. I want to speak about my club, Chelsea, because what's going on. That's pretty much what I'm kind of getting the gist of. I don't really know what's going on. We'll touch on United as well, ever so briefly, and as well, there is some other teams that we need to talk about. Obviously, Barcelona, I want to speak about them just slightly, and obviously the Gooners, who are doing some business. And I want to speak about Spurs as well, ever so briefly. So let's just crack in. I hope everyone's well. As you could tell, I probably should mention it. Rebrand. New logo, new colour scheme, going with a white/grey. I just thought new season, new colour scheme. That's what I reckon. So yeah, just new logo and new banners and new title screen, which you saw at the start. So yeah, that's all for the new season. We'll be back with regular uploads, regular podcasts from this Monday. So from the Monday that this comes out, so whatever date this comes out, that next Monday will be the start of season 2, and then we'll go weekly. So we have this Monday, so it's currently the 22nd of July, as I said. It'll be this Monday, and then next Monday, and then the Monday after will be the weekend of the first fixtures of especially Premier League football, but I assume European football as well. So that's going to be the schedule. This will be the last off-season podcast, so that's the last of this series. So yeah, let's just crack in. I've rambled on enough. Let's get into my club, Chelsea. Let's do it, because this football club, it's really something. Now, obviously, we had I say we. I'll try be very neutral. I'll try and refrain from saying the word we. They had a mass exodus, especially of defenders over the off-season, with Rudiger, Christensen both confirming their departure, and Cesar Azpilicueta looking ever so, is he going to leave, is he going to stay? So we don't really know what's happening on that front. But all we do know is who they've brought in. Now, of course, Romelu Lukaku was another one who has departed in very tumultuous circumstances from Chelsea. But they have brought in some players. And let's go through them just bit by bit, and let's break down some of their confirmed signings and some of their potential signings. But let's start with the first signing of the window for Chelsea. And it was a very, very... I hesitate to say the word shrewd, because everyone knows how good this player is, but it's a really solid signing for Chelsea. And of course, I'm talking about Raheem Sterling. Now, he came across from Manchester City for £45 million, I think, around about that mark. Wouldn't be much over or much under. And it kind of came as a shock, because I thought once he made that, I think if we all looked at the trajectory of Raheem Sterling's career, you kind of thought that if he were to leave anyway, it'd be to a Real Madrid or to a PSG or to someone like that. Because of, like, he's gone to Liverpool, then he went to City, which at the time of the transfer was a step up. It obviously isn't that much of a step up now, but at the time of the transfer it was. And then you'd think he would move to one of the elites clubs, obviously in quotation marks, because City and Liverpool are elite. But you'd think he would have gone to City or to Real Madrid, to Barcelona, PSG, Bayern Munich. But he has gone to Chelsea. Now, he's if I don't have the picture up, but for those on Twitter and Instagram, you would 100% know what I'm referencing here. He's gone through the journey of that FIFA person in the crowd that just, it's the same stock photo of the same person just with different shirts. That's who Raheem Sterling has followed. Got to Chelsea for a pretty reasonable fee, so I don't really think we need to talk about that. And it's the first signing of the Todd Bowley era. Now, if this is something that will be followed in terms of the trend and the profile of signing that Raheem Sterling is, I think Chelsea fans are gonna be very, very excited for what's to come, because Sterling is the exact type of profile Chelsea need. He's a winner. He's been there, done that. Maybe not at the Champions League level, but definitely at Premier League level. Definitely at FA Cup level. Definitely at League Cup level. Like, he's a serial winner, right? And Chelsea, I mean, if we saw last season, Chelsea did struggle to find that edge in finals. Obviously losing the FA Cup and League Cup final on penalties. So they do lack that edge in finals. I understand they won the Super Cup and the Club World Cup and the Champions League, but if we look at these type of finals, Chelsea lacked that experience head in those big games, especially at Wembley. And Raheem Sterling is one of the masters of English football, especially available on the market to be that experienced head for the finals and for the big finals anyway. And when you take away, not only is the signing great for Chelsea, and I'll touch on the stats soonish, but I just want to speak about it broadly first. It's not only a great signing for Chelsea because it not only improves them, but it also weakens Manchester City quite heavily. I think Raheem Sterling was a very solid contributor for Man City last season. I understand they brought in Erling Haaland and all these type of players, but they got rid of Jesus. They have got rid of Zinchenko, which I'll touch on later on. And I understand Julian Alvarez has come in, I understand Erling Haaland's come in, but Sterling was one of those stalwart players. I feel like every single season since he came, he has been a starter. I feel like he has been in Manchester City's best 11 in every single season that he's played. He's very versatile on the left, on the right, up front. I think that's one of his best assets is his off the ball and his, maybe not off the ball movement, but his tactical fluidity. And obviously Thomas Tuchel would love a bit of tactical fluidity because he can play it in the three at the back. Tuchel likes to play three at the back, four at the back, a traditional striker, a false nine. So having that tactical versatility from Raheem Sterling to play pretty much anywhere across the front three and even front four if you want to risk him playing as like a shadow striker or like a second striker playing at that maybe 9.5 role. I really think this is a great sign for Chelsea. And if we just bring up, let's do what we always do, bring up the stats, bring up the FB ref. Right here. This is his scout report. Obviously, take this with a grain of salt because it's really stats that are kind of out of context. But what I really wanted to point out is the non-penalty goals per 90, 0.46. Now, if this was in Chelsea's 11, or if he was playing for Chelsea last season, he would have the highest non-penalty goals per 90 in the whole Chelsea squad. So he immediately goes to the top of that list. He would overrank Christian Pulisic on 0.42 non-penalty goals per 90, and this is of players that have played a decent number of football, because I think Ben Chilwell has like 0.5 non-penalty goals per 90, but he played like 7 games, so let's not count him. Of people who played a considerable amount of game time, Sterling would go right to the top of that list, and that is something that Chelsea lacked so heavily last season. Like, Chelsea lacked that goal scorer that just... I think it might have been Mason Mount leading the goal scorers for Chelsea, or Kai Havertz, whoever it was. It wasn't high at all. They definitely didn't have they weren't cracking 20 goals a season or 15 goals a season. So Chelsea lacked that. They thought they got that with Romelu Lukaku. They didn't. Timo Werner hasn't really hit the ground running. Kai Havertz is still finding his feet. I don't necessarily think he's a striker, but he's still finding his feet. And so I think Sterling will be a revelation for Chelsea. And if we just bring up his FB ref one more time, if you look at the touches in the penalty area and progressive passes received, 0.59 and 9.79. Sorry, 8.59 and 9.75 respectively. That just shows that he, off the ball, like I mentioned briefly, he's very good in terms of finding space, getting into the half spaces, getting in between the lines, and being really intelligent in his runs and where he positions himself. Because if you look at Chelsea, especially over the last couple of seasons, you have the likes of Timo Werner, Christian Pulisic, Hakim Ziyech, Kai Havertz to an extent, Mason Mount to a lesser but semi-real extent. Obviously, Romelu Lukaku. These guys don't really have that positional nous. They don't really know where to go. Is that a tactical thing? Is that a game plan thing? Or is that just a football IQ thing? I don't know. But I think with someone like Sterling who would understand Tuchel's game plan, I feel like he'll click to it very quickly. And we saw in the preseason games that he has it's kind of a duck to water type thing where he's kind of just gone into his system very, very well and just kind of fitted in. So I think this is a very good signing for Chelsea. I do think he'll be in Chelsea's best 11. He'll play most games and he'll be up there with Chelsea's top goal scorers next season. This is one of those signings that elite clubs make. I say that a lot, but someone like a Raheem Sterling, taking him off Manchester City, adding to your starting 11 straight away is fantastic business from Chelsea. £50 million is very good business considering how much he went to City for. Still 27, 28, has got some years on in Premier League experience, FA Cup, League Cup, like he's a serial winner type thing. So yeah, he will be a very good signing, and he's also good in terms of teaching, like your Mason Mounts, your Conor Gallagher's, your other other young players. He'll be good at teaching them the tactical nous and the tactical fluidity of the game. So yeah, I think this is a fantastic signing for Chelsea, and I think Raheem Sterling will be a revelation to say the least. Now, I wanted to touch on that briefly. I didn't want to touch on that extensively because I think Chelsea's attacking woes are not the main priority. Their main priority is their defensive woes, and they have already gone out and gone big with one Kalidou Koulibaly. Now, this is a great signing for Chelsea, and again, I'm refraining from being biased. I'm refraining from being biased. I really want to look at this from a neutral perspective. I think this is a great signing for Chelsea. When just taking my neutral hat off, putting my Chelsea hat on for a second, as soon as I saw this linked, I thought, yeah, that is such a good signing. Like he is able to just command a defense in a way that Chelsea really haven't had. I know Thiago Silva is that, but Chelsea haven't had that commanding back line since John Terry, Carvalho, Cole, and whoever played right back, Gallas, I think played right back in like that mid 2000s, late 2000s team. Ivanovic even they haven't had that commanding presence in terms of the whole back line. Of course, you had John Terry, and then now you have Thiago Silva, but it has been lightweight in other areas. Having someone like Thiago Silva, Koulibaly, Ben Chilwell, Reece James. Let's just assume that Chelsea move to a back four. Having that as a back four is so just reassuring that okay, it's going to be hard for strikers to get a hold of this defense today because he just adds this layer of leadership, this layer of experience, this layer of like solidity within that defense, and he can play in a back five as well. I don't necessarily think it'll be best for him to play at a back five because I think if he did play it as a back five, he should play as a central centre half, and obviously that's Thiago Silva's role. So it'll be interesting to see where he fits in that realm if Tuchel persists with the 3-4-3/3-5-2/3-4-2-1 whatever. I do think this kind of lends itself towards it for the back shift for Chelsea just because of the profile of Koulibaly in comparison to the rest of the team. I don't think he's that outside centre back that someone like a Gvardiol or someone like Alessandro Martinez could have offered. But yeah, I'm smiling ear to ear as a Chelsea supporter with this signing because he's, like I said, just that layer of security that Chelsea haven't had in a long, long time. And people will stick their nose up at Koulibaly saying he's 31 years old, hasn't won anything, like he's been rejected by XYZ club, but this is a fantastic signing. Like seriously, could be, if we look back at this in 12 months' time, could be one of the best signings of the window. Really could transform Chelsea's entire team because he has that gravitas to him. He has that just commanding presence that, again, Chelsea haven't had since John Terry. So it will be fantastic to see him running out for Chelsea next to Thiago Silva, next to Reece James, next to Ben Chilwell, next to potentially a Jules Koundé or a or a Kimpembe. So it will be great to see for Chelsea supporters, and it's great for Chelsea to finally have that commanding presence in defence once again, because like I said, ever since really John Terry or Gary Cahill was left, it's been kind of lightweight. I mean, David Luiz, if you look at Conte's, if you look maybe post Conte, if you look under Sarri and under Lampard, like Luiz was good, but he's better in a back three, and I think he's actually better as a defensive midfielder quietly. But he didn't really offer that. Christensen didn't offer that. Aspilicueta didn't really offer that. Rudiger did potentially last season and maybe the back end of the season before, but not consistently. I know Koulibaly's 31, but this could be such a shrewd signing for Chelsea. This could be so good, and I'll touch on the potential deficiencies of signing Koulibaly and other centre backs in a moment. But if you take Koulibaly in isolation, tick tick tick, in my opinion, just unbelievable. And yeah, I don't see it faltering in any way for Chelsea. So we'll move on, and I will slightly turn into a pessimist now. And I said I'm going to do this from a neutral perspective, so I won't just be Chelsea are great type thing. But obviously, Chelsea have had some departures in the defensive stocks, and that needed replenishment, if you would call it that. But they needed more centre backs, especially, and they've gone out, got Koulibaly, which I think is a massive tick, and now they've gone out and are very close to securing Kimpembe and Koundé. Now, I just want to get the latest update. So, it is confirmed that Chelsea will be going after Kimpembe or Koundé. £42 million for Kimpembe is potentially talked, and Koundé, I don't exactly know how much it is for that. But let's just go with Prensel. Yeah, let's go with Prensel Kimpembe to start with. Now, I was very happy with the Koulibaly signing. If this goes through, I am just hesitant ever so slightly, because what Kimpembe represents in my mind is the Andreas Christensens of the world, is the David Luiz's of the world, is this kind of languid, fluid, lackadaisical centre back, which aren't inherently bad things. Inherently, they're not, because a fluid centre half and like a languid centre half that can play on the ball and be this kind of Rolls Royce in defence is good. In certain scenarios, it's good, but I feel like in Tuchel's system, you look at potentially Chelsea's best back line last season was, in my opinion, Chalobah on the right-hand side, Rudiger on the left-hand side, and Thiago Silva in the middle. They're three centre-halves who are very physically present. Chalobah maybe is the worst example, if you to call it that, of the back three, but I think Chalobah plays his best football when he's pressing up against a striker, being that physical presence and being that bully, right? Thiago Silva has obviously done that for his entire career. And in terms of that, Thiago Silva maybe not the bully, but he that leadership, that commanding presence. He's a Rolls Royce in the way that he plays the game, but when he doesn't have the ball, he's this leader, right? And obviously Rudiger, which we've spoken about at length before, and we obviously know how good he was in terms of a physical presence. But those three complemented each other brilliantly in terms of you have three profiles of player that all are very similar, but that have key differences that complement each other. So obviously similarities will complement each other 9 times out of 10 they'll complement each other, and the differences that each player had worked, because the difference that Chalobah had wasn't the difference that Thiago Silva had, wasn't the difference that Rudiger had, wasn't the difference that, if you get what I mean by saying that. So what Kimpembe signifies to me, obviously Tuchel would have played, obviously Kimpembe would have played under Tuchel at Paris Saint-Germain, and I just don't really think it could work. I am going to be hesitant, and I am going to give Tuchel the benefit of the doubt, because I feel like Tuchel deserves the benefit of the doubt based on what he's done to players in the past in terms of just transforming them. Like, once again, he turned Rudiger into one of the best centre-backs in the world. So we need to give Tuchel the benefit of the doubt in that scenario. But as the cameras just stopped focusing. So I've just noticed that on the OBS. But yeah, it will be interesting to see just how big of a role he plays should he be signed. Is he going to be a starting 11 centre back? Is he going to be a squad player? Will he fit into that left-sided centre half role and play every game, or will he be a deputy should Chelsea go to a 4 at the back? That's the only reason why I am kind of, or not the only reason, one of two reasons. The other reason I'll touch on later. One of two reasons why I am kind of hesitant about this move. I do think he has potential, and I do think he has the potential to be a very, very good centre-back, especially in a Chelsea system that it should, regardless of a 3 at the back, 4 at the back, I feel like Chelsea system will always be strength in numbers. So I feel like he does get protection to that extent, or in that circumstance. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know about it. Yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see. Of course, none of this is confirmed. Kimpembe really couldn't come by the time this comes out. It could be completely quashed. But let's just say that he does come. I'm talking in that context. But let's go from one French centre half to another, and one French centre half that has been linked. What seems to be since Frank Lampard's days as Chelsea boss, but it is Jules Koundé. Now, the worries I had for Kimpembe are slightly similar to the worries I had for Koundé. However, what gives me more sense of calm in Jules Koundé is that he's more natural as a left-sided centre-half. Yeah, so that kind of gives me this calm and this just real I don't know exactly how to call it, but the fact that he is capable to play in a position where Chelsea, he's more natural in a position that Chelsea need. Yeah, that just gives me a lot more calm, because unlike Kimpembe, who is more natural in a 3, Kimpembe is more natural in a 2, sorry. Koundé is more natural in a 3. I do just give myself this just area of calm about it. I think I said Koundé is a left centre half. He's a right-sided centre half, but you just move Koulibaly to the left-hand side because Koulibaly can play on both feet should Chelsea go to a 3 at the back system. But the fact that Koundé is capable to play in a 3 and can play right back as well, which just allows him to play at a 3 at a more natural level, whereas Kimpembe doesn't really have that naturally in his trick bag. Yeah, I just feel more safety around this Koundé signing than Kimpembe. So in that case, it would be Koundé on the right-hand side, Koulibaly on the left-hand side, Thiago Silva in the middle, which in my opinion it fits really well. And then you have obviously Chalobah, Kimpembe as well as deputies. But yeah, I have similar worries, like I said, with Koundé signing, the same with the Kimpembe signing. But I have just this extra layer of security that he's been targeted for a long time. So if it didn't work the first time and Tuchel's gone back a second time to try and get him, it obviously means that Tuchel wants him, right? It's not a Roman Abramovich signing or a Todd Boehly signing. It's a Thomas Tuchel signing. And the fact that he can play in the 3, the fact that he's still young, 23 years old, I think he is. Yeah, they're the three pros that overwhelm the cons in my mind, which gives me more calm about this signing. It'll be cheap. It'll be slightly more expensive than the Koulibaly signing, I think. I don't exactly know the figures, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether or not this actually gets done, because it feels like it's been trying to get done for the past 4 years. But yeah, play on that right hand side, can play in a 3, can play in a 4, can play right back as well. Yeah, I like I said, I'm just a lot more calm about this signing as a Chelsea supporter, and as a neutral, it would. I say this a lot in terms of saying I don't see this going wrong, but I genuinely can't see a world in which Koundé is a flop, because it's kind of very low risk, can play in different positions, so it can be moulded into the player that Tuchel wants. Similar to Koulibaly, I just don't see this going completely wrong. Whereas Kimpembe, I do see him flopping to an extent at some stage. That's a possibility in my mind. I'm not saying it will happen, but I'm saying it's a possibility in my mind that Kimpembe could not live up to the standards that Chelsea supporters have of him. Yeah, so they're the 3 centre-backs that are linked to Chelsea at the moment. Now, if I was to give him a rating, I think Koulibaly is a 9 out of 10. In terms of the signing, I think Koundé is a 7.5 out of 10. I think Kimpembe is a 6 out of 10. In terms of that range of signings. Now, I touched on before that there's two reasons why I'm not exactly happy with the Kimpembe signing in particular, but also the mass signing of defenders is one, Mr. Levi Colwill, and another Ethan Ampadu to a lesser extent. Now, what these signings represent is the Roman Abramovich era of Chelsea, and that is, which we saw last year and we saw the year before, is having this unparalleled youth system that seems to produce world-class players at will. Like, you have Tammy Abraham here, Hudson Odoi there, Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher, Mark Way. Like, these guys just pop out of nowhere, right? And yet we have this talent at our disposal. I'm speaking from a Chelsea supporter's perspective here. We have this talent at our disposal, and yet we continuously outsource and go to spend 40 million on a centre back, 35 million on a centre back, 100 million on a Romelu Lukaku. Like, we had Tammy Abraham right there, man. Like, why? We had Tammy Abraham right there. Why don't we just persist with the youth when there's far more positive factors than just spending 100 million on a striker that might or might not work? And obviously Lukaku didn't work, but having the likes of Ethan Ampadu and Levi Colwill in the squad who are ready to come into the first team and play a role. I'm not saying they're going to start every game, but to play a role. It just saddens me. Like, it really saddens me, the fact that we saw this with Conor Gallagher, we saw this with Livramento, with Tariq Lamptey. I know Gallagher has come back, but Tomori, like, Chelsea's centre-back stocks, Chelsea really, in theory, could be lining up with a centre-back like contingent of Mark Way, Fikayo Tomori, Levi Colwill, Ethan Ampadu, Trevor Chalobah. Like, they're five, albeit young, albeit not world class, but five very, very good centre backs. And then you throw in a Thiago Silva, a Kimpembe or Koundé signing on top of that, just to sprinkle it out, fill it out a little bit, bridge that gap between extremely young and extremely old. And you have that brilliant signing. You have that brilliant centre back kind of quartet there for the next 10 years. And then obviously you have Malang Sarr coming through. I'm not sure what's happening with him, whether he'll be sold or whether Tuchel will persist with him. But it's just bizarre the way these clubs run. And I thought it'd be over now that Roman's gone. You know, this was one of potentially the only negative points I had on Roman Abramovich's time at Chelsea, is that he didn't really give the youth any chance until he had to, when we had a transfer ban. And even still, the only players to come from that youth period are Mount and Reece James. Like, Tammy Abraham was shifted out, Tomori was shifted out, Christensen was shifted out. Anyway. It's quite bizarre that. But, I would rather Chelsea persist with Ampadu, Colwill, Chalobah, Koulibaly, Thiago Silva, Malang Sarr, than getting rid of Colwill, Ampadu, bringing in a Koundé and a Kimpembe and like some other centre back that are so much more high risk. Because we've seen for time and time again just how good these players can be if given the chance. I mean, for Fikayo Tomori, if we were to sign Fikayo Tomori right now, we'd come straight into the starting 11. If we were to sign Mark Way right now, he'd probably come straight into the starting 11. Maybe not, but he'd be in and around it, right? Who else have we signed? If Tammy Abraham was bought right now, he'd come straight into the starting 11. So we are like Tariq Lamptey. He wouldn't start because obviously Reece James, but he would give pressure to Reece James' spot. It's just bizarre the way Conor Gallagher as well. If we didn't sell Conor Gallagher, say we sold Conor Gallagher last season, he would be bought right now and come straight into the starting 11 because I think he starts next season. But I just don't understand the way these clubs run. This club is simultaneously run, like, it's simultaneously the best run club in the world and the worst run club in the world. Because we have an unparalleled youth system that produces world-class talent every single year. yet we persistently sell them on and buy risky players from overseas, no Prem experience, and need time to fit in. When you have the likes of Tammy Abraham, Kai Tamori, like Mark Way, these guys who can just come into the side straight away, fit in like a glove, and be more than capable. We saw how good Kai Tamori was when he was introduced into the Frank Lampard system. He was unbelievable. Our best centre back that year by a country mile, right? And yet he was sold. Similar with Tammy Abraham. I know Tammy Abraham had a slightly maybe not underwhelming, but a slightly poor start to last year in terms of the season before last. And he was eventually sold. We brought in Romelu Lukaku. How many goals did Abraham score? How many goals did Lukaku score last season? That's all I'm saying. So I really hope this club can transform the way that it's run, but I guess we just have to wait and see. Now, let's move on. Let's go to Manchester United. Now, Manchester United are so weird. So, obviously, the signing of Lisandro Martinez has been all but confirmed. I think it actually is confirmed. Thank the Lord for that. In terms of a neutral's perspective, finally they got it right. I mean, I know they signed Eriksen, and Eriksen's a great signing, but Jesus Christ, finally United have got a signing that's good. Like, that's actually good. However, people who watch this podcast for long know my fascination about Lisandro Martinez. I said Spurs should sign Lisandro Martinez, I think in the 3rd episode of this podcast, or 4th episode of this podcast. The reason I say that is because obviously under Conte, they play a three at the back. Martinez is a perfect left-sided centre half. I feel like if Lisandro Martinez was playing in a three at the back system, he'd be the best left-sided centre half in world football. But I digress, he's not. So he's been brought to play as a left-sided centre half in a 2. Now, a couple of positives, a couple of negatives for this one. Positives. Absolutely world-class footballer that will transform the way that Manchester United will play. He knows the way that Ten Hag plays, and he is a bit of a prick, right? In a good way. You want pricks on your team. The cons: he's 5'10". Now, obviously that's said in jest because he's 5'10", yes, but I mean it's not like he hasn't seen tall people before. He's not going to rock up to the Premier League and say, "Oh my God, fuck, people are tall. What the hell?" Like he played in a team. We played with Sebastian Haller in training. He played against Erling Haaland in the Champions League. Like, he's played against tall people before. What's his fascination about Martinez being 5'10", which automatically makes him a shit defender? I don't get it. I really don't understand it. But he was Ajax's player of the season last year for a reason. He must not have been shit if he was Ajax's player of the season. I think this is an absolutely world-class signing for Manchester United. This is the type of business that elite clubs make. I say this time and time again. This is the type of business that elite clubs make. Martinez will come in, play left-sided centre-half. I think this means that Harry Maguire should be shifted out straight away because I think should Rafael Varane stay fit, I think Varane and Martinez will be a very good centre-back partnership. I do think they need one more centre-half because I just feel like you need more quality in depth in that position, but that's a story for a different day. Yeah, I think he can play left back, can play DM, can play centre back. I do think he'll play centre back, although I wouldn't be surprised if he played as the holding midfielder, as that number 6 that United have lacked ever since. United have lacked a number 6 ever since Michael Carrick left, right? So I do think he'll play as a centre back, although if he does play as the number 6, I won't be shocked, and I actually think that could potentially work out better in terms of the overall output for the team. Obviously, should they sign another centre-back. But yeah, I don't think he'll play left-back at all. I think that's a waste of his talents if you're playing Martinez left-back. I think, and also you got Luke Shaw there, who's more than capable, especially for now. So yeah, great signing for United. World-class player, like genuinely world-class. Will be one of the best signings of the window, no doubt. Again, it is one of the signings that great clubs make. They pick these players out from Portugal, from Netherlands, from like these lesser countries. They pick them out and they unearth unbelievable talent. So yeah, great signing for United. Now, let's move on from a signing that they haven't made to a signing that they won't make. I'm convinced this signing won't happen now. And that is, of course, Frankie de Jong. Now, What on earth is going on? Can someone please leave it in the comments or tweet at me to at fucking hell at 2FTPod. Tweet it at me or comment in the comment section below on YouTube. What's going on with Frankie de Jong? Is he going to come or is he going to stay? What's going on? Because for all I knew, it was done, locked and loaded, being a Manchester United player. But all of a sudden, it's kind of gone really quiet, and nothing really seems to be happening. I don't necessarily think this is a doomsday scenario for United. I feel like they could get pound for pound better players in terms of the money spent. They could get an overall better deal for that position, but it's going to be interesting to see whether or not that deal gets over the line. I just think it's quite funny that United have been hyping this up all summer, and for it not to come to fruition is quite humorous in my opinion. But I think that's enough on United. They need more signings. They can't rest on their laurels right now. I know Anthony Martial was the second coming of Jesus Christ in the preseason games, but relax, mate. You've got some Melbourne victory. Speaking of that, also I want to touch on something as well at the end of this. That has just reminded me. You versus Melbourne victory, just relax. And you versus a reserve Crystal Palace team. Anyway, I digress. That's enough in United because they haven't done a lot apart from that. Christian Eriksen, great signing. I like that signing. Malacia, we'll have to wait and see. I don't really know a lot about him. I know he's a good left back. So United, in my opinion, have ample left backs, but I know Alex Telles isn't great. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on Malacia. Don't know a lot about him, so I won't comment. Let's move on. I just want to touch on Lewandowski to Barcelona ever so briefly, just for under a minute. I'm in two frames of mind. I mean, where are Barcelona getting all this money from? But also knowing the fact that that this is more than allowed what they're doing, right? Like this is more than allowed. Yeah, they're not paying Frankie de Jong. They don't have to pay him yet. If the issue is if they don't pay him, that's the issue. But they still are allowed not to pay him at this stage. So I guess people are overreacting ever so slightly, but Can Barcelona just relax? They've signed Rafinha, they've signed Christensen, they've signed Lewandowski. Are they going to be good next season? I actually don't know. I actually have no idea if they're going to be good next season because I feel like they have 150 attackers. Like Depay, Lewandowski, Fati, Depay, Depay, Lewandowski, Fati, Aubameyang. I feel like there's more that I've missed, but it'll be interesting to see what Xavi does with that team. I mean, are they going to be good next season? I mean, I'll do more research on them when I do my predictions for each league, but it's going to be interesting. I don't think they'll win the league, put it that way. And it'll be interesting to see how they go in. They finished top 4. I think they might have finished second. I actually don't know, but there you go. Let's go from Barcelona to Arsenal. So Barcelona to Arsenal. Moving down, pretty much getting relegated in terms of talking points. No offense. Obviously in jest. Yes, they have signed Alexander Zinchenko. Great signing. Again, it's like I spoke about with Raheem Sterling. It is this, yes, you're improving yourself, but you're also weakening City. I know he didn't start, but it is a valuable squad player that has been entrenched in that team for the best part of half a decade. So it will sting a little bit for Man City. Where will he play? That's the big question, because is he better than Kieran Tierney? Probably. But are you going to spend 30 million on a left back that isn't going to transform your team? I don't know. Is he a good central midfielder? I do think so. Is he good in a double pivot? I don't think so. Unless they play a 4-3-3, then he can play on the left side of that 4-3-3. It'll be interesting to see, because obviously Thomas Partey pending is going to be the base of that midfield. Pending. Of course, we don't know what's going on with him, but I don't know if he's going to play as a central midfielder or a left back. Arsenal supporters, let me know in the comments below. It'll be one of those things where we'll just have to wait and see the way Arteta goes what system he plays. I do think regardless, it's a good signing, whether he plays as a central midfielder or a left back. I think it's a great signing. He's better than Tierney, so if he does play left back, it's an improvement. And he's probably better than Xhaka and Sambi Lokonga and other midfielders that they've got. So, with Torreira not being in the team, they needed some depth there, and they've got it. So, that's a good signing for Arsenal. And, again, another signing which is just elevating their stocks ever so slightly. Do you think they need more business? I do think they need another striker, because everyone knows my opinions on Gabriel Jesus. But, Zinchenko, great signing. Weakens City, improves Arsenal, bridges that gap between them and the top four. Yeah, tick, 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 tick. Now, what I brought up, and this is what we're going to finish off because we just ticked over 41 minutes. What my mind thought of when I brought up Melbourne victory is, and for those overseas, this isn't going to be relevant to you, but for those in Australia, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, it is the fascination / weirdly obsessive nature for the AFL to get every single international athlete, international person to hold a Sherrin and hold a footy for photo shoots, for media appearances, etc., etc. Now, what frustrates me about this is not the AFL, because the AFL can do whatever they want. That's fine. And I don't think the blame necessarily has to be, or the anger necessarily needs to be directed to the AFL. I feel like it is directionless anger that just has landed onto the chest of the AFL. But the AFL can do whatever the fuck they want with any sportsman. Who cares? No one really cares about that. In my opinion, anyway. Marcus Rashford could hold a piano and go to the Sydney Opera House for all I care, right? I really don't give a shit. However, what frustrates me and what is really grinding my gears and really pissing me off is that you have Manchester United, you have Aston Villa, you have Crystal Palace, you have these elite clubs in the country. You have Marcus Rashford, one of the most recognisable footballers in world football, I reckon, right? Considering what he's done off field, which is great. That has elevated his stocks to beyond footballer to kind of celebrity, right? You have him. And yet, the FA, instead of going hell for leather and getting him to promote football in this country, they just do nothing, right? And United can do whatever they want with their players while they're here. If they want Rashford to hold the Sherrin, they go do that. If the AFL want Rashford to hold the Sherrin, that's fine. I really don't care. What it is that you have these elite players, recognisable players, and yet you're not sending them to NPL clubs. You're not sending them to state league clubs. There's the Australian Cup round of 32 is happening right now. It happened last night, the first group of games. Get them down to those games. Get people to be invested through their heroes, right? Because so many people in this country follow Manchester United but don't give a shit about football in this country, like grassroots football. So get players like Rashford, Bruno, these recognisable players and these players that people idolise. Get them down to who played Broadmeadows versus Bentley Greens. Get them down to that game, even for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes, right? And just say, listen, football in this country is a shit show at the moment. No one really gives a shit about anything other than Melbourne Victory, Melbourne City, Sydney FC, Adelaide United, Western Sydney, even Western United. No one cares about any other clubs except for those, right? Get people invested into NPL. Get them to do media there. Get them to do appearances there, and get them to promote how good football, like grassroots football, maybe not the quality of football, but the vibes around it is. Like, go to an NPL game. The vibes are great. Like, it's a great atmosphere to be a part of. Get United players and get Villa players and get Palace players to go and promote that. Yeah, they might not know anything about it, but if they just promote, if the image of Bruno Fernandes saying, get down to the Australia Cup, it's going to be a good game. It's this team versus this team. There's the repercussions. If the image of Bruno Fernandes getting around the Australia Cup and NPL teams and A-League teams, that image alone will do so much good for the A-League. So much good for the A-League. Because if you have a 6-year-old kid who loves Marcus Rashford, but doesn't really care about an A-League team, if he sees Marcus Rashford put a Melbourne Victory top on, or put a Melbourne City top on, or go to a Melbourne Victory game, or like, I know they played Melbourne Victory, but that doesn't really matter because everyone knew that was happening, right? So the idea of, oh, they're getting eyes on the game, like they're putting AFL. Sorry, how do I articulate this? I'll touch on that point a little bit later. But getting Marcus Rashford to go to an NPL game, put a Melbourne Victory top on, to do something to promote the game in this country, that 6-year-old kid who loves Marcus Rashford might be like, oh, if Rashford likes this team, maybe I'll like this team as well. Maybe I'll like this league. Maybe I'll go down to an NPL game. Maybe I'll get involved in football in this country, right? That's the anger for me anyway. And another thing which I was touching on but couldn't quite articulate then is the idea around the defense for AFL supporters, who the defense for AFL supporters is that Marcus Rashford holding a Sherrin will get AFL people who don't really know who Marcus Rashford is to watch Melbourne Victory versus Manchester United, or to watch Manchester United versus Crystal Palace. That is not the point. No one cares about those games. Those do absolutely fuck all to improve football in this country. They could send fucking Barcelona down here and have them versus Melbourne Victory. That means fuck all. Because we all know, yeah, Melbourne Victory are great. Melbourne Victory, Melbourne City, Sydney FC, Adelaide United, Western Sydney, Western United, they're great. They're running fine. They're not the problem. It's the NPL teams that are the problem. It's the grassroots football that's the problem. So 80,000 people went to Melbourne Victory versus Manchester United, I think, or like 90,000 people. How many of those people would have gone if Marcus Rashford didn't hold the Sherrin? Probably 3, 4, 5 people wouldn't have gone. That's not the point. No one cares about that. People are like, all right, this symbolises, not only this symbolises the image of Marcus Rashford holding a Sherrin, people aren't angry at that exact photo. They're angry at what that symbolises. That symbolises football in this country being kicked in the dick time and time again. They're being consistently kicked in the dick by the AFL, by the NRL, by more proactive organisations. It's no fault of the AFL. We're blaming the FA because the AFL actually gives a shit and actually wants to promote the game. The FA don't do fuck all. So that's what we're angry about. That's why we're saying, all right, they had Marcus Rashford holding a Sherrin. That's great. They had Marcus Rashford doing appearances with Will Pukovski and NRL players and NRLW players, AFLW players. That's great. Good on them. Why wasn't there a fucking NPL team there? Why wasn't there a State League team there? That's what we're angry about. Not football fans don't care about any other code in the game. Great. You can have Lionel Messi kicking a Sherrin with fucking Ron Barassi for all I care. No one cares. Football fans don't care about that. That's fine. But get him to promote football in this country because it really needs help. And all these Euro snobs, I hate that term so much, but all these Euro snobs who love Manchester United, who love Marcus Rashford, if they see Marcus Rashford going and doing promotion for NPL teams, for Australia Cup, for even like Central Coast or teams that are struggling, and football struggling in this country, and so many teams are struggling. If they see Marcus Rashford going to an NPL team, going to an Australian Cup game, they'll be like, oh fuck, might check it out. Bang. And so much more good has been done from that than getting AFL supporters to go watch Melbourne Victory versus Manchester United. That's the fury. That's the frustration. Because the FA have been so silent about elite footballers coming to this country, the blame just happened to fall into the AFL because they were the only major party involved. Like, fuck, man. Like, we can't get it. I can't catch a break. Like, we can't catch a break. I think it's a massive overreaction, but I feel like that's where the anger is aimed at, not really aimed towards anyone else. Anyway, I think that's enough. My battery pack died during this episode, so if you saw a random cut about 30 seconds ago, that's what it was. Thank you guys very much for watching. It was a pleasure to be back. Pleasure to spout shit about the football once again, and we'll be back next Monday, with an episode. I think that episode is going to be the most each Premier League club's breakout player for next season. That's going to be the first episode of the first episode of season 2 of next season. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Yes, thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe on YouTube, follow on all the socials, 2 Footy Tackle Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, 2FTPod on Twitter, and Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. 5-star review, follow it, subscribe to it, thumbs it up, whatever the rating system is. Do that for me. It will mean the world to me. Of course, who else would it mean the world to? But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. Speak to you guys very soon. Goodbye.